Hello there, kia ora. In some parts of the country, there are groups with clear links to hard right and disinformation ecosystems. And in others, there's a more underground-like network running to try and win votes and hope that you don't find their climate change denying posts that they use their fake account to post and then realise they hadn't actually switched over to their fake account and hastily swap it out. And in other parts of Aotearoa, we find examples of local issues disinformation ecosystems have appropriated, and it comes from genuine concerns and issues that are facing a community. But these groups tend to amplify their message, which gives those disinformation ecosystems a platform to piggyback on with local anger while tapping into something that they can scale, build networks with, and reframe it to fit their broader sentiment and messaging, and ignore outsider messaging at the same time because it has an air of local authenticity to it. And Selwyn is one of those places. But voters are well aware that Selwyn has these candidates in the mix. It's actually the single most requested location from viewers that I've dealt with. And looking over the candidates, there are a lot of red flags, including one that got famous for hiding behind a door avoiding media last election. And to confuse things even further, there's the Concerned Ratepayers Canterbury Region page. This is an organisation with links to Voices for Freedom. It was actually one of the very few Voices for Freedom linked groups, because they had a limited number of groups that they recommended and they were all Voices for Freedom linked, that was on the Concerned Ratepayers NZ page. That was set up by Voices for Freedom Wellington Regional Coordinator Dean Harris. So we know that there are definite links there. And what we're seeing with these people is that they're framing and platforming specific candidates in a way that's been used as a subtle tool to promote those that they feel share similar ideologies. Now, quick disclaimer here. These are my red flags. They may not be yours. So please do some checking and make sure you look into your candidates. See if they share your values and your vision for the place that you call home. And none of that is going to matter if you don't vote. Your voting forms should be with you very soon if they're not already. And if they haven't shown up, check out vote.nz to make sure your details are up to date and talk to your council about casting a special vote. If you've been watching this list series for a bit now, you might have come across some patterns in the people who end up on the lists. They share content from the same sources known to spread disinformation or push a perspective that lacks context. But there are some commonalities that actually don't get on a list for a lot of people. And one of them is that they follow mayoral candidate Lydia Glidden. Her name crops up on the lists of following pages of about 90% of the candidates with links to coordinated disinformation groups like Voices for Freedom. There's clearly something about her they really like. After all, her content is shared and celebrated by some of the region's most prominent Voices for Freedom members. It may be her stance on pushing for the New Zealand First driven bill to stop Te Whatu Ora from being able to order water fluoridation and water supplies. It may be how she was endorsed by rural astroturf group Groundswell, who are intrinsically linked with Voices for Freedom these days. Or that on Voices for Freedom linked election pages, her content is shared extensively in a positive way, side by side with content from disinformation propaganda outlet Reality Check Radio, or that she was the only Selwyn candidate last election to agree with everything that Voices for Freedom asked in their totally not biased, why would we, one of the leading groups behind Wellington Parliamentary Protest Be Biased survey. It may be that she campaigned last election with other candidates with links suspected to disinformation groups. It may even be the way she announced her candidacy, talking about restoring trust and how governance starts with respect. While on Telegram she's calling Dame Jacinda Ardern a tyrant who'll be taking away voting rights. That militantly anti-Jacinda stance is seen in almost all hard-right candidates, especially the ones in disinformation ecosystems. Running in the new General at-Large ward, you've got Tracy McLeod. She's another one who wants to ask the government to pass on New Zealand First's anti-fluoride directive bill, put it into law, and teamed up with other candidates being promoted within these disinformation ecosystems. You've got Samuel Wilshire. He's anti-fluoride. He's part of the Selwyn Hut disinformation sphere. He wants to leave LGNZ and getting preferential promotion on Voices for Freedom aligned Canterbury Concerned Ratepayers. In the Tawera Melvin ward, there's John Very, another on the anti-fluoride train. John shares content from disinformation-based local groups like Democratic Clutha District, a group admin by Gail Oates, one of the most prolific spreaders of disinformation ecosystems, including pseudo-law group Challenging Councils, hard-right think tank NZCPR, disinformation propaganda network Reality Check Radio, and more, who thinks anything left is woke and occasionally calls for violence on political institutions between spreading disinformation. That's the calibre of John Verry's research and the sort of voice that he platforms. In the Carmania Rolleston ward, you've got Errol Mathie. He signed up to the TPU pledge, the completely unworkable pledge. You've got Joe Morris. He's another one pushing for the New Zealand First Fluoride Bill. Hayden Porritt is another in favour of lobbying against fluoride. You've got Big Red Shepherd, Trump lover, currently mourning the loss of Charlie Kirk and celebrating Destiny Church's involvement in far-right rallies in the UK, who wants to lobby against fluoride. You've got Chris Till. He's the local ACT candidate. He'll be listed as such and is one of only 2 candidates to sign that unworkable taxpayers union pledge. In Te Waihora, Ellesmere, is Elizabeth Munt. She could be described as one of the most prominent faces of disinformation in local government at the moment. She made headlines last local election by hiding behind her door when staff came knocking to ask about her Voices for Freedom links. She's known to have made fictitious claims about the number of people who died from the COVID vaccine on a Tamaki-linked Freedom and Rights Coalition regional page. In 2024, she was the one who pushed for the New Zealand First remit to stop the Ministry of Health adding fluoride to water supplies, which explains her answer to the Fluoride Free New Zealand survey, where she says she is already actively campaigning at the highest levels against fluoride in water, despite claims on public forums in the community that she believes central government party affiliations have no place in local government, being a member of New Zealand First at the same time. She's been on Voices for Freedom disinformation propaganda channel Reality Check Radio to downplay climate change. She's been snapped using fake accounts to distance her beliefs, like she did here in posts about chemtrails. She's the Voices for Freedom member behind Upskilling for Local Government, a training ground for potential candidates in the local body elections, with guest presenters from other Voices for Freedom connected officials, like Robert Lee from Rotorua Lakes. She told attendees to turn off cameras because if the content was spilled to the media, they can be outed, which Wellington's Ray Chung and Independent Together candidates chose not to do. Munt has also admitted in those calls she rings talkback radio under pseudonyms. In a statement to the press, Munt claimed that she abhorred party politics in councils. So here's a photo of her at this year's New Zealand First Party conference as a member, clearly abhorring party politics up close with a Canterbury Voices for Freedom coordinator. In Kapuna Springs ward, there's Denise Carrick. She's another one of those candidates supporting Lydia Glidden's mayoral run, and on Telegram has been known to promote other candidates with disinformation links. She promotes the Selwyn Hut issue, which has been amplified by disinformation groups. And interestingly, she got really defensive when this article from the press came out about disinformation candidates, despite not being mentioned in it. She's being promoted by Voices for Freedom linked Canterbury Concerned ratepayers, and as the admin behind Lincoln Voice, she uses that platform to push specific candidates that she wants to endorse, and has been accused of misleading the public over processes at council to scaremonger and vilify current councils. Then you've got Zoran Rakovic. He actually went through media rounds initially as Selwyn's ACT candidate, but is instead registered as an independent, and there's been no explanation as to why publicly, and he's not listed on the ACT website anymore. His Substack and subsequent connections with a think tank that's linked to Don Brash from Hobson's Pledge are all about how the country is submitted to the horror of multiculturalism and being held hostage by the treaty, and it's poisoned us. In the Tawera community subdivision, there's Bex Lambie, a member of pseudo-law group Challenging Councils, whose campaign is also being promoted substantially by the Voices for Freedom linked Concerned Ratepayers Canterbury page. And on the Hawkins community subdivision, where I'm told that there's no entrance to the upside down, Evan Frew wants either a rates cap or forced removal and reduction of services. Selwyn is the fastest growing district in Aotearoa, and rapid growth leads to issues for any council around service provision, facility and infrastructure needs, long-term planning and environmental impacts. But the voters there this year are also dealing with an education campaign spearheaded by a group linked to disinformation ecosystems. And whether the candidates they promote are aware of this or not, they become linked to it. And if they're aware and continue to use that to promote themselves, then they need to ask whether or not they're complicit with it. And if they're not aware and refuse to look into it when it's raised by locals and media, then what does that say about their ability to research data and make informed decisions? Ultimately, that's going to be up to the voters to decide. Voting is done by postal ballot, with voting forms having already been sent out. Selwyn District Council is using first past the post, so you just need to tick your preferred candidates. And the future of Māori wards is not on the ballot here because Ngāi Tahu prefer a different representation model. You can find more information about your local elections on the Selwyn District Council website, or you can visit my website, paultheotherone.com/LG25 for more resources. Hey, thanks for checking out today's video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe so you get more updates as we go along. We deal with these guys for the rest of the year.